And so he prepared two sets of nomination papers, a set for him and a set for me, just in case they did not accept his papers. I would have been prepared to step in. Yeah, because for my husband going to Andros, it was something that was an experience for him. Being a city boy, having to go to Andros, where there was absolutely nothing, and no roads, no transportation, no nothing. And so I had to precede him to introduce him to my family. My mother had a lot of family down there in down in the High Rock, Coppice area. And I remembered when I went down after nomination, we went by a seaplane, and the plane landed in the creek in Driggs Hill. And we were on board this aircraft for an hour and some. No one would come to collect us, and the pilot said, look, as if we have to go back. Michelle was 2 years old, and she was with me. And someone finally came and got us. By the time we got off that aircraft, I was wearing a jacket, and it stood up like a piece of stick from salt air. But I did go back, and I introduced him to the people, and they said, well, you're McKinsey daughter, and so you're a home girl, and so if you're a home girl, we will accept a home boy. But he had to learn that people visited like 5 o'clock in the mornings. But my father's house, that beautiful house you see in this book, where I grew up, my father built that house in the back of the bushes because he didn't like black people. And so he built that house so people couldn't visit, you know? I mean, we were sleeping with one. I mean, you know, but he didn't like black people. When the people came to visit, he used to be very angry. But my mother didn't pay any attention to that. But anyway, when my husband came, we had to put a lantern in the window in order for him to find the house. It was so far because we had to ramble through the bushes to get to the house. I was very ashamed, but that's how it was, and that's what my father wanted, and that's the way it was until he died, and then we built a small cottage for my mother near the street, and that's how it went. That's how Pindling became somebody. I mean, he said, well, you think these people expect me to get up now? I said, no, you don't understand island people. They come to visit, they come to talk, and they think you get up. And there was a particular reverend named Jim Dunham. My grandfather was his brother. And so I introduced him around 8 o'clock when my mama opened up the house and my husband was out. And they were all sitting outside smoking their pipe early in the morning. And he said, my God, I have to smell all that tobacco. I said, that's what this life is about. You're going to learn sooner or later. And so they came into the house and I introduced them. And I can remember this reverend, big man. He says, oh, you say you come here to represent me, eh? He said, yes, sir. He says, well, we will try you, or you will mildew. My poor husband looked from one to the other. He didn't know what to say. He just gave, yes, sir. I said, Cousin Jim, he's going to be just all right. I tell you so. But I was always, these were my family, so I knew them well. But that was his introduction to island life. And I want you to know that those people endeared him to their hearts. And that was, the rest is history. But it was an interesting life. But I never thought of running again. That was the only time.
Once there was I think in 1982, the newspapers were trying, it was rumored.
Yeah, it was rumored, but that was...
You would run for North Andrews. You were Darrell Road, remember? I came across the meeting, Joanne, you came across it.
That was the only time in 66. Never
But you
since.
weren't serious in 82?
Oh no, one is enough. You have to take care of that, and that was a job, yes ma'am.
Mind sharing one of your most memorable political experiences and one of the personal
One of the most
memorable, political or social, international?
It was when we won in 1967. They left me. Sidney Boyd here, the late Percy Munnings, they came, and I think it was Simeon Bowe, they chartered the aircraft and collected to Linden and left me there in South Andros. How am I supposed to get back to Nassau? But I can remember flying in on a one-engine plane. I think that was my first and last time. And I think they took me to Meadow Street. I don't remember how I got to Soldier Road. But, and the most what? Oh God, there've been so many, I can't. You keep talking to me and it'll come back. I don't know.
When you received your date.
Oh, but my day, but he wasn't.
I was just going to ask Dame Marguerite if you could tell us about the day when you received that honor, an honor from the Bahamas.
Well, yes, for me it was because in 2006, I would have been the only living wife who was active from the 1956 election. Mrs. Jones Stevenson is still alive, and I've been active ever since in Northwood. And which was 50 years, and I thought my 50 years should have been recognized for the work that I've done, whether they like me or not. I thought I made a contribution to helping to build the Bahamas. And so I spoke to His Excellency, Mr. Hanna, and then they took it from there. And then we arrived and the instructions were given, and when we arrived at the palace, there were the other members, other honorees there, and this lady who came, she said to me that you will be the first to be called. She said, yes, because she's only dame. I said, but I can't do that. She says, but yes, you can. Hence Obama. And she says, yes, and I'm sure it's all very familiar with how you go about. You enter and you walk to a certain point and you step forward and all that. Anyway, as I entered, I thought I was standing there forever. It seemed so long. I mean, and then of course Her Majesty appeared. And I did my curtsy. I know you're supposed to bend one knee, but I bent both because I wanted to make sure that I didn't fall. And so on Her Majesty receiving me, she said, it's just so good to see you again. She said, are they still working you hard? I said, no, ma'am, not as much. You're still with the Red Cross? I said, off and on. And then she said, I am just so sorry. She didn't say any more. She just said, I'm just so sorry. I realized that she was offering her condolences. But we chatted for a good minute. Everyone wanted, what are they talking about? And so, and she pinned on I think it was the star. And I stepped back to curtsy. The star fell to the carpet. And she looked at me, and I looked at her, and I said, well, who's going to pick it up? But one of her men, whomever it was, they just rushed forward, and she just laughed. I mean, she said nothing else. It was just too funny. And then I managed to curtsy with my both knees bent, and trembling as I walked away, because it was this great big hall. I said, if my mama could see me now, and I want you to know something. They said not to wear bright colors. As you look in that book, I wore the brightest aquamarine that you could find because I wanted to show the colors of the waters of the Bahamas in this place. And Her Majesty just smiled, and she was very generous. And we walked to this other area, and they took it off you and put it into this case I was in. But the funny thing, when I got outside to be photographed, the pin wouldn't stay, and it was so cold that day. And it was cold, and I couldn't wear a jacket. I couldn't wear a coat. And I was outside, and I'm shaking. I said, Lord, don't let me get a fever here or a cold here today, because you had to be photographed, and I was just trembling like mad. But it was quite an experience for me. And my damehood was given to me in my own right for the work that I have done in my country. Because I was honored for charity, politics, and community service. I think I made a little contribution. Thank you.